Hi, everyone at home. Welcome back to the Ibhoni podcast. This is episode 5. Today I'm sitting alone on the couch with a special guest. But the guys are here. Wandi is there, Mpumi is there, Khoto is here, and Lwazi is here, our first aid guide. But for today, it's a very, very special episode. I hope that you guys enjoy it. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and also share and keep the channel growing. Today, we've got a very special lady on the couch with me. She goes by the name of Buhle, but we all call her Sis Buhle. I'll just allow her to quickly introduce herself before I read her profile and we get right into the episode. Welcome to the episode, Sis Buhle.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I've been watching the start of this podcast, and it's a wonderful pleasure for me to be one of the guests in this podcast. So my name is Buhle Madlala. I come from Pietermaritzburg. Born amongst 9 boys, so I'm number 10, jersey number 10.
Messi.
We come from a very big family, Snamategi Sekaya, so I guess my conditioning has always been around boys and sports, Zamachita, which is unfortunately or fortunately how I ended up championing the drive to transform cycling. So I started cycling at a very young age. I remember with my brothers, we had a BMX, so it was a fight over the BMX, and that's basically the love of cycling, how it started. If I can just sum up what I do with driving transformation, cycling, it's basically trying to shine a spotlight on up-and-coming cyclists of color, because in this country, we have seen a vacuum. I think in the 30 years of our democracy, we have a handful of black cyclists that have really maximized their careers in cycling. And for me, that's an indictment, which is why I started an organization called Ncaf. But I guess as we get into the conversation, we'll unpack more on what this journey has been like.
And what do you think for the fact that on this podcast we don't have a jingle as yet? I was telling the guys that we need a jingle. So we can't just like get right straight into it without maybe like music in the background or something.
Yeah, man, I think we do. We've got a wonderful culture in this country of music. I'm sure you guys can find something, you know, because I mean, we are worldwide. So what is this? World Wide Web.
Yeah, so we're multiracial here. So I think one is of Unistonga, Lwazi will want a bit of Swati or Zulu, Ampumi Xhosa, Thandisa Mazwai or something. There we go. But anyways, before we get right straight into it, let me just read like a quick profile about yourself, right? Buhle is an entrepreneur with 18 years of experience in event production management and operating in marketing communications with brands, entertainment, music, TV, radio, me content and sport management and sponsorships. In the SA entertainment and media industry, she is known for her authenticity, dedication, and her go-getter attitude. Over the past years, she has been featured numerous times in the press about brands she has built, especially her dominance in cycling development. Buhle is a TV reality star, recognized on the big screen as one of the castaways on season 5, Survivor SA Champions, where she was runner-up. Following her life-changing experience working for FIFA's official hospitality and ticketing company, Buhle founded and is creative director of her boutique firm, CPM Consultant and Events, a consultancy and event production management agency. From humble beginnings, Buhle has become a global citizen who now regularly travels to diverse destinations across Europe, China, Canada, and the African continent. Her advocacy is driving diversity and inclusion is widely published. She is the co-founder of the National Cycling Academy Forum, Ncaf, the largest cycling academy ecosystem driving grassroots cycling development, promoting black up and coming cyclists, plus formalizing the sport in rural and township areas through in community race competitions. Buhle is an expensive brand strategist with an exceptional record of achievements in implementing new business concepts, strategic planning, delivering innovative solutions, stakeholder management, and maintaining the overall business performance within allocated budget and timeline. Her recent accolade was the launch of the TOURDELIMPOPO and National Criterium Racing Series in her other business, the Brand Factory. Buhle's lifestyle is one of adventure, renowned fitness fanatic, passion, and living in the moment. Her brand has strategically built up a social audience through her engagements and business connections in social development advocacy. What a profile.
Yes, yes, it sounds like, you know, when there's a funeral of someone like
Yeah, no.
Ututu, and
Yeah,
then
no.
they read a whole thing about their lives.
Correct.
I'm very pleased. I mean, I think part of it is just living life in the moment now.
Yeah.
And not really wanting to limit oneself in a space, you know. I always say, as creatives, we're so different from academics and someone who wants to be a doctor.
Correct.
I don't ever dream of just doing one thing for the rest of my life, you know.
You only live once.
You only live once as well, and I mean, the only constant in life is change.
Correct.
And I allow myself to have the flexibility to just be able to change with the environment, be as dynamic as possible, and just accept what the environment poses at that time. And I think being an entrepreneur and having owned businesses allows me that freedom to always constantly be pursuing things that feel right at that particular moment.
Correct.
In time. Yeah.
So you were in Survivor season 5. But before that, I feel like you were surviving just before the show itself, because you number 10 out of 9 boys.
Yeah.
So now you're like, you know what?
Yeah.
Let me just go test out my strength and what I can do. And then you decided to go do Survivor season 5.
Survivor
so I
season
recently
5.
saw that it's today 13 years.
It's 13 years today, actually. It was today when we actually left the country to go to South China Seas, to the island.
Is it?
To actually start and begin the show.
So how was Survivor? Let's dive into that. How was Survivor?
Oh, it feels like a lifetime away now. 13 years. That's a long time. It was, for me, so I'm very spiritual. And I started my spiritual uncovering and understanding around about 2010. Because also working for FIFA for me was also just one of those opportunities where you're like, Mina Buhle from Maritzburg, here I am working for an entire FIFA,
Correct.
the global football controlling company.
Yeah.
And here I am when the continent is hosting the World Cup for the first time. I get to be amongst
And
the
experience
people
all of that.
that work for that. So coming from that, it was an enlightening moment where then I started just to go deeper into where I come from. So Ekaya, we come from a matriarchal type system. So Umkulu, when Umkulu was alive, was the only man in our family. Then my mom, single mom, my uncle passed on when I was quite young, so it was quite early. So we grew up with a family of females, as matriarchs, as moms, as aunts. And in that matriarchal family, ugogo uma wakhe wayisangoma. Then ugogo wayumthandazi. So this thing ikhona ekhaya.
Correct. Yeah.
And then with me being kind of the stronger, I don't think my brothers will like the stronger amongst everyone. It naturally just fell upon me. So I wanted to unpack and find out where all of this comes from. So by the time Survivor came, I had already started unpacking.
Yeah.
And to me, it felt like Nyotwasa.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So that entire experience for me, it was so like out of body experience, which literally feels like someone who would say, Bengi no Kobela, I was doing all of these things because some of the challenges you guys have seen Survivor.
Yeah.
Firstly, I still can't swim. I don't swim.
So how did you do
And
it?
50% of the challenges that I Survivor were in the water.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's all of those experiences that make me feel Uguti that experience for me needed to happen. Firstly, my daughter pushed me to enter.
Oh, nice.
So my daughter just turned 21 last month.
Oh, yeah.
So she was quite young and she was a fan of the show, and during that time I was really a fitness fanatic. She's like, Mom, this is your chance to prove that you are really this fit person.
Did she know that you can't swim?
She knew I couldn't swim.
Yeah.
She knew I couldn't swim, but it didn't stop her. So
Yeah.
she had applications forms for me. So I filled in the application forms. But for me, it was like, never. Survivor. Filled my applications forms. When I got the call that, hey, you amongst the shortlisted people that are going to go for a Survivor, I'm like, oh, really? That's interesting. Okay. And then they told me, there's still going to be some questions. There were some questions that they sent online that we needed to complete. Completed those. Really didn't put myself into this is what I'm doing. It was just, okay, Amu wants me to do this thing. Let me just fill it in. Then they called when they now had shortlisted 60 out of thousands of people that had entered. And then they told me, hey, you're amongst the 60. I'm like, this thing is really happening. You're amongst the 60, and we're going to have a Joburg leg where we're going to choose the last 20. It was at Indaba Hotel. I went and I got in. I was the top 20. I was like, oh, okay, this thing is really happening. That's when now I really started internalizing it. I'm thinking, okay, it's 39 days in the island, people there don't have food, you don't have mattress, you're sleeping in.
You're basically a survivor.
I'm like, okay, now I need. Unfortunately for me, I had just started yoga and being introduced to those things, meditation. So in meditation for me, I was trying to marry the spiritual thing, yetu pasha, and what meditation is. So it kind of didn't really feel too foreign. But I think with that, that's when I really now could visualize myself in the island. And two things I knew when I went. I knew, Uguti, it's either ngizofika laphaya, the first one to go, because firstly I can't swim, and I wanted to be honest. Uguti, guys, I can't swim. Anything else we can do, but I can't swim. It was either that and be honest, or I'm going to go all the way to the end. So I saw those two things happening. And then I guess the latter happened. I ended up at the end. I think only had I visualized myself winning, maybe I was going to win. So it was challenging. It was an eye-opener. It opened a lot of doors for me. We were with Umak Fish. I got to have quite a close relationship with Umak Fish on the island. He helped a lot, and I think him helping was also just trying to be strong, because I think it was the first time when they introduced champions. That's why our season was called Survivor Season 5 Champions.
Yeah.
Because in the other seasons they never had. It was just the contestants alone. There was
Correct.
no coach, nothing.
Yeah.
So when Umakfish Nokone Krecha got to the island, they thought they were just gonna come and do the challenges and then be
move.
shipped off to some resort and then come. They were there with us, so it was a shocking surprise for them, and they needed to internalize. And I guess also depending on who you are, where you are in your life, how you receive that information, a whole lot of things have a huge impact on just how you behave. So made a lot of friends, discovered a lot of powerful things that happened in that island, things that you usually read about and you wonder. So it was, oh, okay, this happens, you know. For example, I think the guys that were on our show would remember, everyone that got voted out knew they were going.
And you had no idea that you were going as well, or you're like, you know what, I'm doing this up until the end.
I knew. I had a target on my back, I think from episode day 5 when we were in the island. So day 5 in the island, there was the immunity.
Yeah.
It was the idol was hidden somewhere, and the guy that found the idol lied about who has the idol, and they said, I have the idol. So everyone wanted to vote me out because
they thought you have the idol there.
And I didn't have the idol. So I got saved, I think, 3-4 times. So after that, I just didn't really matter.
But look, you survived and you rode with it up until the end.
Up until the end.
With everything that you've said, even your profile says it, that you've traveled to multiple countries, been to multiple places. Yeah. Let's talk just a bit about tourism within those areas and in all the places that you've visited. How is the tourism that side? How would you compare to South Africa? What would you have taken away that side to say, you know what, I love what I saw here. I'd love to bring it back to South Africa. It would be of great benefit in the tourism sector. Yeah.
So tourism is domestic, I think.
Yeah.
I think maybe in this country, we think tourists, we think foreigners.
Correct.
In countries that I've visited, for example, in Canada, tourism is quite domestic because people visit their own spaces, their own communities. That's how they discover what or the precious places that they have.
Correct.
Where we now want to go and visit. I think that is the one thing that in South Africa our tourism misses. We've got Cape Town. Everyone when you think South Africa wants to go to Cape Town, but I think outside of Cape Town we are such a rich country. What other countries have capitalized on and what they have been able to do is to empower the locals that have special stories and special history and special heritage to tell, to be able to bring that to the fore and be able to package it with the support of the government so that it is put in the platform for people to interact with and understand. I'll tell you one example where for me, I think we are lacking. Think of it, December, ne? We live in Joburg, and then December we all go Duga and go home.
Correct, yeah.
But when we all go Duga and go home, we struggle to find a B&B in Asekai. You know what I mean? I'm old now. Yes, I still go home, but there's just this culture yokuthi kufanele ngibe sekhaya.
Yeah.
And mangisekhaya akusenayo indawo. I don't have a space anymore, so I end up sleeping with couch, or now I'm sharing a bed with ingane zo cousin
I
ekhaya,
mean, I can
because
imagine it's 10 siblings and then there's
we
kids.
we understand. We
Yeah.
understand. Now my car can't fit in the yard. Finally,
Oh, yeah.
tekisi manje yocela lipakwe kuphi. You understand?
Correct.
So that whole thing, yoguti, we do not promote our own communities.
Community, yeah.
Akhona ama-B&B ngasekhaya. You know what I mean? But because we don't promote them, when we all descend coming from Joburg to KZN, we don't have B&Bs where we can promote the economy of abantu bangasekhaya. That's one. Two, let's say now sengifuna ukuba ne-fun. Car washes. I will only go to a car wash ngasekhaya.
Correct. Because it's the only one that you know of.
Because it's the only one that, like, there is no registry of, okay, now you're visiting Khayelitsha. Khayelitsha, kunama car wash awu 5. Eyodwa is in this section, it offers this and that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why don't we have a registry of our own spaces in our own communities so that we interact with them, you know?
Like a yellow book for
yellow
tourism.
pages.
Yeah,
Yellow pages for Ilokish Langagini. Now you have a yellow pages for Ilokish Langagini. And that is, I think that is the distinction between tourism yetu here and the tourism outside.
Does a yellow pages for tourism exist? I don't think so. There isn't one, so.
Like you, and I don't think it's difficult to collect that information, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, because it's just data of different people in the tourism sector.
In the tourism sector,
not
even kube a mandate of tourism. Let's think of our local network operators. Banama cell phone numbers of every business here.
Correct.
Isn't it easy to just maybe get an algorithm that will just classify spaza shops as a social move? Here's a list of them, put them in a category. Here are B&Bs that are from Soweto. It's Yonkintunama locations.
Yeah.
That information is there, is lying around. But I think it's the will of just understanding where we're taking tourism and what we need to do. Especially in townships. There's a history in every township.
Correct, yeah.
But there's just no driving force or power within the municipalities that will say, Mina, in my municipality, this is what I have. I'm rich in this. This is the history of what had happened. I mean, Ngasekhaya, in Pietermaritzburg, if you think about Mandela, there's just the capture site.
Oh, yeah.
He interacted, there's Moses Mabhida Stadium, kunabantu bakamabhida, kuno Harry Gwala was another one. But it's all just here, there, and it's not packaged enough like what you guys are doing here in Soweto. You've got a nice route where you go to all of these heritage sites. Every township should have something like that. You know what I mean? That is just the first step in trying to be domestic tourism, where people would know what's going on.
Yeah, no, you're creative by nature. We'll end up giving people ideas and then they implement. Then, but anyways.
No, but we need a registry of...
We do, you're right, you do. But also, you've got the brand factory, which we'll talk about later on. Maybe you can implement that. But right now, let's talk Ncaf. What is Ncaf?
So Ncaf, it's actually an acronym. It stands for the National Cycling Academies Forum. It was an idea that got raised in a tourism indaba. So we had a cycling tourism indaba in 2016 in Durban, Elangeni Hotel. For a lot of years, these cycling events and activations would happen in isolation without really trying to get everyone in one room. So this maybe it had happened before, but for me, 2016, that's when I really started and I went in and just to see what's going on, what goes on into these tourism indaba. So there we had a lot of development clubs. So in cycling spaces, black people are development.
Oh, we're not developed?
I don't know. It's just. I think it's just the lingo corner because it's. I mean, we can't take away the history of what cycling is. It's a white-dominated sport, and it's dominated by white people. So when we came into spaces, it's like they trying to do something for us. You know what I mean? This is why they feel like maybe we need to be developed. I don't know how, but we are developed now. So a lot of development clubs were there, so we interacted. Hey, where are you from? So we got to find out, actually, there's quite a huge network of cycling academies, development clubs. And when we sat around ourselves, we saw a lot of similarities in our challenges, because even now, a black club in Khayelitsha, a black club in Soshanguve, black club in Mthatha, same challenges.
Correct.
No infrastructure, no equipment, no formalized structure. You know, like I always make an example of USAFA. At least with USAFA, you know where you need to start to ultimately get to
the top.
To the top with PSL. With cycling,
you just get to the top.
You just, if you're lucky, you must just get some white person there dragging you and putting you into races, and then you'll eventually end up somewhere. So we posed a question. It was actually Bruce Malele. We co-founded Ncaf. It was Bruce, Ubonga, Bonga Ngobani, and myself. We co-founded the Ncaf. He asked a question to the Federation Cycling South Africa. Uguti, what plans do you have in place to drive transformation and to actually accommodate into your system, into your organization, all of the black clubs that exist?
The
developing clubs. And typical answer that you would get from organizations that are just narrow-minded, vision yabo was just tunnel vision. This is where they were going, and they wanted to just do what they needed to do. Guys, I should have switched off this phone.
No problem.
It's busy making noise here. Let me put it here. So typical answer was, but you guys are not united. You guys are not structured. You guys are not formalized. It's very difficult to work with cycling academies because, firstly, you find maybe it is TK's business account that is not formalized. There's no constitution. So go out there, structure yourself, formalize yourselves. Once you become an organization, come back to us, and then we will talk about getting you to affiliate as a development wing of CSA.
Have like a plan in place to say we will teach you this, or were they teaching these development clubs? Or that question, when it was posed, that's when they answered to say this is what you must do, this is what must be done, etc.
No. So how CSA functions, it's very unfortunate that cycling in this country is not on the minister's barometer of sports. There's sporting codes that the minister puts the spotlight on with regards to transformation targets. So, for example, this is why cricket and rugby will always be on the spotlight with quotas. How many black players do you have? How many people have you put on? How many professionals are now in the Springboks, for example? For cycling, nothing like that happens because it is not on the minister's barometer. So they are not accountable at Parliament, for example. So even a minister that would want to find out where cycling is with transformation targets, the platform of having an engagement in Parliament around where we are with transformation, what are the transformation targets, what are the outcomes, how many cyclists have we, black cyclists, that we've put on that now represent the country. So nothing like that happens because it's not on the barometer. So because of that, there is no policy in the country for grassroots. It's literally driven. So the entire cycling federation is driven by volunteers. There's very little budget that comes from sports and recreation. But outside of that, it's really just volunteers. They don't get paid. They've got regions.
Regions, yeah.
because I mean, we should have Soweto with, how many townships do we have in Soweto?
49, 50 with New Soweto Market in Lusaka, Zambia.
Do you see?
49,
40 townships.
yeah, 40.
40 townships, but in the 40 townships of Soweto, there is no structure, there's no local office recycling. Does that make sense? I mean,
yeah, it doesn't at all. So now, how many developing clubs do you have under Ncaf currently, and how do you maintain, sustain, or help these clubs to grow and be a developed club?
All right. So we've got, I think we're going into our second audit. We're planning to do our second audit of going around to find out actually the data on the ground, how many teams, how many girls, how many boys, what age, what are their needs, all of that. We last did a data audit in 2018. Fortunately, we had a champion who was a general manager of Cycling South Africa then, who Mike Bradley, who was quite instrumental in getting us formalizing Ncaf. He appointed us and commissioned us to go around the country and visit all of the cycling academies to find out what are the needs. And at that time, the subscription was 32 clubs. So in a group, I've got a WhatsApp group. We've got over 49 members, active, non-active, abanye. But I think at the moment we're sitting at about 32 active clubs nationwide that we interact with, where we share information around training programs that come. I think you guys would know Uwandi was a beneficiary of the bike mechanic courses that came on.
Yeah.
We post it on the group and we allow people to go through. We assist them. New clubs, we assist them formalize by having a proper bank account, a proper structure. You need to have a constitution. Yes, TK.
Stokfela
I think it's stokfela. I think a lot of guys that come on kind of come with big, wide open eyes, hoping to benefit and get something. And it's literally just information sharing. It is literally around getting formalized training, around what the federation is planning. Because I think what we were promised after that cycling in Indaba, which we did in 2018, this is why they commissioned us to now, after 2016 Indaba, your questions, okay, we're commissioning you, go around so that when you put together this organization, you know exactly how many of you are there. We did all of that. We came back, we gave them a report, and we sent them an affiliation letter. Okay, we've done all of these things. We have formalized ourselves. Here we are. Can we now affiliate and become an associate member and run the development and grassroots? We've got a policy. I think at that time, I was very lucky that my partners at Brand Factory, understood, firstly, I think the passion, and secondly, just the interactions where we would find ourselves having to drive a program like the Spur school series.
Yeah.
It was grassroots, but white grassroots.
Okay.
It was Gasfontein, and it was St. Tisian's College, and it was grassroots. So,
Agnavo Povungani primary.
do you understand?
Yeah.
So the first one that we brought in, working with, I think at that time was Umurant Botha, the guy that was running a mountain bike ISPER school series. We had one April tier. We literally brought it on, and my partners were like, yo, we've never seen so much support of cyclists. I'm like, guys, people in the township cycle. It's just that you just don't come to the townships, and we don't have formalized events like that. So I think my partners were like, okay, you're the right person to drive this thing. You can have the time and use our resources. So that's literally how I started the plan, the strategy on ultimately how we could possibly grow the sports in the township. You know, what I visualized was at community level to grow the sport, because we ride, we don't race. We should be able to take the community in community-based races that we have to a provincial level, where now a region as a East Egrudeni will be able to race with a region as a South. Will be able to race with a region as a North, a Soshanguve. And from there, you are now able to have like a national type of competition, where from your community-based events, you have winners that now represent their provinces, and then now you have those guys coming to the top, where you can now say, here is an amateur level, or a team B or a team A of cycling, where then selectors will now start having data to say, okay, we've got a sprinter that comes from Mpumalanga that we can pair with whoever is in the elite race. But I mean, if there is no funding.
Correct. So you just mentioned something interesting, right? I think I do stand to be corrected. A week or 2 weeks ago, there was a ride by a certain association. And on the same day of the ride, there was the national crit.
That's
so
how it happens.
What's your thoughts on that? Because for us, I'm like, okay, we ride, but we also want to be included in the races.
Yes.
Why did that specific event happen on that day? Why couldn't they move it to the next day and say, okay, there's clubs that are going to attend this ride or whatever, or we can provide resources for those who are interested in racing to go and race the national crit?
Do you see the very interesting thing with cycling? Like I said earlier, because it is volunteer-based, it literally depends on the popularity of who Dinyiko is and their proximity to who they know in the federation. Because if you think about it, for cycling events, I mean, there's rides every weekend. I think the last statistics had said there's about 420 events.
Every weekend?
Cycling. Every year.
Every year?
If you think about it, a year has how many days?
365. So
And
there's more rides than actual days in the year.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And of that, I don't know how many are accredited and affiliated.
Oh, yeah.
I understand. And then the rest of the people just ride. Why is that so? Because I think a lot of event organizers are not finding value in going through to a federation that is really not interacting with you. So, like, the libraries here, you've got your own communities, you do your own marketing, you have your own riders, you get your own prices. And then when you now want to get professional riders, you need to then go to
the
CSA.
CSA,
Yeah, they need to now come and grade your event, and for that, I think a lot of organizers feel this relationship is not two-way.
Yeah, it's one way.
It's one way. You know what I mean? So I think with what you're saying, the biggest cycling events are the ones that are not accredited with the federation, you know. Because one, for example, with your base of your cyclists that come and support your events, if they are not members of Cycling SA, then, you know what I mean, Cycling SA shies away from wanting to have any association with you. But for me, it's like, then how do you take on the growing interest of cycling if you are not going to allow these people to have a platform to just be at a accredited racing event, cycling, so that they can be convinced that, oh, okay, if I buy a membership into Cycling South Africa, then these are the benefits that I qualify for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have lots and lots of clubs in townships, but for you to be a recognized club within CSA, you need to pay affiliation fees. Okay, let's look at what do affiliation fees give you. You pay membership so that they can come and they can give you technical officials. Are there technical officials of color in the country? So this is why we are reduced in our spaces into riding, because there's no referee, there's no commissaire that is going to come and officiate the race, because there are no officials of color.
Yeah.
So we don't have technical officials. Our roads are deemed not safe. Our communities, we live in them every day. I mean, we are old, we are grown now, we are still alive. Our spaces are not safe. So even the ones that are there don't really want to come and officiate races because, it's in Soweto, it's not safe. You know what I mean? So I think there's just a lot that needs to be redressed when we really want to take on the interest of cycling and the growth of cycling. And if there is no willpower, if there's no agenda, then we're literally going to just be shooting blanks, thinking we're making a dent where we're not, you know.
Yeah. So word has it that you now something there by CSA, but we'll get into it. Let's talk TOURDELIMPOPO. I think that is something that not a lot of people have heard about.
Yes.
Tell us more. What is TOURDELIMPOPO? Because when we think TOURDELIMPOPO, we think, Tour de France.
Yes.
ZCC.
So literally, TOURDELIMPOPO was mirrored around what Tour de France is. So Tourism Limpopo, when it was under, I think the general manager at that time was Sisi Sonto. She wanted a mechanism that will showcase what Limpopo has. And she felt, with conversations that she had with the administration, Cycling SA, which was then run by Mike Bradley. Mike Bradley was one of those visionaries. You get CEOs, MDs that come and they have a term where literally they turn things upside down, and then when they got.
But when he came into term, he had a vision.
He had a vision. So they had conversations around, okay, we can assist by having a multi-day race.
Oh, nice.
That will be able to showcase what Limpopo is all about. So Tourism Limpopo put in money, and they had a partnership with Cycling South Africa. Cycling South Africa did applications to UCI. UCI is the FIFA of
FIFA cycling.
to categorize the race as a 2.1 tour. So a 2.1 tour is where you have intercontinental clubs, national clubs, and local clubs taking part in that event. And it was launched in 2018. We had clubs from international clubs, local clubs. We had clubs from Malawi. We had clubs from Swaziland. We had international clubs from Turkey. So it was quite a huge spectacle. And it was meant to be part of the African tour, African Championships. It only happened for 2 years. And after that, I don't know, I think money's dried up, or there was some red tape that got in place, and we couldn't go on and continue having it. But it was, for me, it was one of those platforms where I was able to be the event organizer of an international cycling tour in the country. And that's where I think I started seeing an opportunity for having small cycling events in the country that will be able to unearth talent, especially in our local communities, townships and rural areas, because that's where I saw guys that were going toe to toe with international guys.
Yeah.
And it really did shine a spotlight on different provinces. It shone a spotlight in Limpopo, but I saw it being replicated in different provinces. Tourism, if you think about it.
Correct. I was about to say the impact it had in the tourism sector as well.
It was huge. It was huge. We were able to see what Limpopo had to offer, Mahuba's Club, what Zanin is all about, ZCC,
Giyani.
Yes, you know what I mean? So I think if we really want to focus on tourism, platforms like that and mechanism and concepts like TOURDELIMPOPO could be a tour. Okay, there is Tour Durban.
Yeah. Oh, there is a Tour Durban.
Yeah, there is.
Is it?
But we can have for every province,
to showcase.
To showcase.
We should, right? Yeah.
You know what I mean? So maybe Minister of Tourism, wherever, can start.
Who's the current Minister of Tourism again? Gayton McKenzie?
No.
Oh.
That's Ford's. That's
Patricia de Lille?
Patricia de Lille.
Do you think she's capable of bringing something like that up?
So maybe my opinions about politics. I hope I don't get into trouble. I just think we
speak free.
I just think we have leaders that have overstayed their impact in government.
She's 100 days in.
What has she done?
Yeah, she's 100 days in. No. She's 100 days in tourism.
Yeah.
But she's 30 years in government, you understand? And if you spend that much time, I don't think there's much innovation that you can have. You've got 30-year-olds who have families now. When you started your job in government, they were born.
Yeah.
Can you imagine just how mind-boggling that is? Someone who's got an entire family.
Yeah.
When you started a job in government.
Damn.
And you're still in government.
So it's a no. You saying it's a no?
No.
She's not capable of doing things like TOURDELIMPOPO.
She doesn't have the nuances of how life is now for the 30-year-old that were now when she started work that was born. During that time, there was no TikTok.
Yeah.
With TikTok now, you literally can see the life of
everything
where it happens without you having to know or send a team to go and investigate. You can see that. Now, with strategy sessions in the department, and you're still going to be lead, and then you're going to get young people that will come with all these brilliant ideas. We're human at the end of the day. And wisdom. We all have grandmothers, grandfathers, because people in government are grandmothers and grandfathers.
Yeah.
We know how stubborn those people are. They will always tell you this is how things were done when we were younger. It used to be like this. It used to work.
Yeah.
And because they are meant to have wisdom, we also tread very carefully when we present things to them, because you always think, "Ukuthi, eish, what is Ukoko going to say?" And that is literally why, for me, government isn't working.
Yeah.
Because there is that still, we Africans, there's still that culture of ukubahlonipha kakhulu, you know. We respect to a certain level, but I believe mangabe semsebenzini, we should be all equal. You're my manager, you're my boss, but at the end of the day, I should be able to speak freely about plans and strategies that I might have.
So you're making this podcast and the hot couch be even more hotter, right?
And it should be.
But in closing, right?
Yeah.
I want to bring you back again for another episode. But in closing,
Yes.
tell us more about the new role at CSA, what you do there, what your plans are, and what we should expect from Usis Buhle, the survivor of season 5.
So it came as a surprise when I actually got elected. I remember signing a nomination form.
This time you signed it, not your daughter, right?
I signed it this time. So I signed it, but I really didn't put my heart into it because I've been snubbed for so many years within CSA, the leadership of CSA. So I was like, okay, it's fine. Let me sign this thing. So I got elected as the chairperson of the commission that will head transformation and capacity building. And I think that it's a huge title, because transformation and capacity building, just the two words, you are coming into a sport that has been failing to transform, you know. With the work that I've been trying to do, it's because I wanted to drive transformation, inclusion, and diversity in the cycling space. And capacity building requires money.
Yeah.
For you to empower people so that they have capacity to do what they need to do, there should be money. And this is a federation that really does not have money. So for me, it's very big boots to fill. But I believe because of the recognition of what I have been doing, there is faith with the people that elected me. I'm finding out there was 12 officials that were voting, and 1 abstained, and all the other 11 were like, yes, let's have Buhle working and taking up.
We have believe in you as well. Yeah.
So it's huge confidence. So for me, my priorities with the commission, firstly, is to sort out the structure.
To move from developing to developed.
We need to have a grassroots development policy in the country. I mean, if we want to be taking the sport to the next level and absorbing all the talent that has been coming through and falling in between the cracks, we need to have a proper structure. How I see that happening, my organization, Ncaf, with the network of cycling academies that I work with, already there is a structure there. We should be able to have an associate affiliation with the federation. The reason why sports that didn't transform before, they were crying about quotas in rugby, they were crying about quotas in cricket, but look at where rugby is today. We've got a black captain, Usia Kolisi, that comes through the development. You know what I mean? So if we're really serious around having transformation and having capacity to grow the sports of cycling, we should have associate members in the development space. And Ncaf has proven to being able to be working in those spaces. Rather than reinventing the wheel, support those guys, bring them into the federation so that whatever secrets that they have in doing community-based cycling, having clubs that are now formalized, having a structure where clubs, you guys usually for your tours.
So yeah.
You have clubs that come from Pretoria that come to
Correct.
support, because it is an environment that Ncaf has created. Ncaf clubs are nationwide. So that's my first priority. Let's have Ncaf as an associate member to drive grassroots cycling transformation and have a proper policy in the country. Then the next priority, very important, we need to invest on technical officials. Imagine if there was a soccer where you would not have FIFA officials officiating. We would just be playing soccer
Yeah.
for the fun of it.
Yeah.
We need technical officials. Technical officials will take the sport to the next level, because then we start having data and statistics on guys that come from Soweto. Here is TK, who has a record of doing a 90K in 2 hours. At the moment, we don't have stats like that anywhere in the country. So we need technical officials, team managers, timing officials. We need to time our events. We need to have AMA coaches. We need to have AMA mechanics. It's no use to TK having a club for 6 years, but he cannot tell you the history of cycling. He doesn't even know how the sport works.
You can take Wandy.
Yes, of course, Wandy. Of course, Wandy. Wandy is a global accredited mechanic. You know? So for me, I don't think we need to go and have a huge list of objectives. If we can just formalize the guys that are already doing grassroots cycling, and we then prioritize giving proper technical training, then we are one step away from literally working with Gayton Mackenzie, who's the new minister, who said he's got Project 300. He wants to take 300 athletes to LA in the next Olympics. We are already in grassroots cycling, recognize what we do, and formalize our events, and you will have at least a team of riders that selectors can look into taking riders that can represent the country.
Yeah, no. Thank you so much for that. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming to sit
Thank you
at
for
the
the
hot
opportunity.
couch with me.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Look, I hope that the listeners are listening, and
Yeah.
we'll have a business directory for tourism businesses. Episode 2, when I bring you back, I'm hoping that at least one of those mandates are achieved.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the end of the day, people watching the podcast, please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and keep the channel growing by sharing it as well. Thank you so much.
Let's keep riding.
Yeah.